Am I the asshole for telling my father-in-law that he cannot arrive at our house at 1 a.m.? My father-in-law is staying with us for 3 weeks over the holidays, which I already find an unacceptable length, but whatever. He told us he was planning on coming up this weekend from Florida. He will be driving. My wife asked him what time he thinks he might be arriving and he said 1 a.m. I said that is unacceptable and that he should leave at a different time or stop along the way and get a hotel. We have 2 young children, 8 months and 3.5 years old. The guest bedroom my father-in-law will be staying at requires him to walk past their rooms. Last thing I need is him coming at 1 a.m., making all sorts of noise and waking up everyone. My wife was talking to my father-in-law and she was pushing back a little bit and I kept quiet until he said, "There's another way of looking at this. A man coming to visit his family. Like we are lucky to be graces with his presence." I had to chime in and say, "No, 1 a.m. is unacceptable." He replies, "You're entitled to your opinion." The conversation got a bit heated after that comment, with it resulting in him agreeing to arrive at a normal time. Now my wife is trying to guilt trip me into being the bad guy for making him arrive at a normal time. Am I the asshole? Info. How far is he traveling? What time will he be leaving to reach you at 1 a.m.? And who decided he was staying with you for 3 weeks? How fragile are you and your kids that drone walking past a room is an unacceptable disturbance? The tone of your whole post sounds like you don't want him at all and you're reaching for excuses. Why is everything so unacceptable? Your wife doesn't seem to have a problem with it. My buddy drove around 8 hours to see family and he got in at like 2 or 3 a.m. and all they did was have one family member stay up to wait for the arrival while everyone else slept. They weren't upset about the arrival time, they were excited he was coming to visit. I don't understand the issue if there's an agreement that that is a late time to show up. Only one person may be awake when father-in-law shows up and he needs to be quiet since everyone's asleep. The biggest annoyance would be if y'all had to work the next day and this was way too inconvenient, and then I'd be inclined to agree, but going through the house late at night doesn't seem like a big enough deal to have arguments over it, cause a scene. In most families I am familiar with, people will arrive at all times of day and night during the holidays, especially if they're traveling from a long way. Not being allowed to walk past your kids' rooms? Really? If you are worried about noise, you can ask him to pack an essentials bag and only bring that past the kids' rooms until the morning. If you feel the need to be up to greet him, don't. He's being overly familiar by arriving late at night. You are permitted to do the same by letting your wife handle greeting her father. Another common custom. The closest relation hosting greets the inconvenient guest. It's not the end of the world, he means no disrespect, let him know the family schedule so he can be helpful, etc. How do people function with this level of anger, nitpicking, and rigidity? What is your life where this is such a big deal? Nobody is out to harm and offend you here. Normal people are happy to see family for the holidays and roll with the inconveniences. Either you hate your father-in-law for a reason you haven't specified and are otherwise normal, or you are a deeply exhausting person. You are the asshole. Nah, you're alright lol. Am I the asshole for sacrificing the guest room instead of the office space? My husband and I live in a 3-bedroom apartment. We sleep in the master bedroom, and until earlier this year, the other 2 were a guest room and an office space we both shared. Our first child was born in October, and we decided to turn the guest room into his nursery. We thought about sacrificing the office instead, but decided we needed it more than the guest room. I work on site, but I also do some freelancing from home, and my husband works hybrid. We don't need to do our work from the office, but it's more comfortable and less chaotic, especially now that we have a baby. On the other hand, we rarely have guests over. If we do, the office is big enough to set a mattress on the floor. My father lives in a different country. He's traveling here for Christmas in about a week, and this will be his first time meeting my son in person. Last time he came, I was pregnant and we still had the guest room, so he stayed there during his visit. A couple weeks ago, my father called to ask whether he could stay at my apartment again this year. I said sure, but we don't have the guest room anymore, so he'd have to sleep in the office. He asked what I meant, and I told him we'd turned the guest room into the baby's nursery. He then asked why I hadn't gotten rid of the office instead. I explained my and my husband's reasoning. My father got annoyed and said, "Whatever, I'll get a hotel," before hanging up on me. The next day, my father texted me. He said it was selfish and inconsiderate of me and my husband to keep an office we don't actually need over a room to properly house potential guests. He added that he didn't raise me to be such an awful hostess, and it's insane of me to think people would be okay sleeping on a mattress on the floor. My sister is siding with my father, and I'm starting to doubt myself here. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. A guest room is nice to have, but you have reason enough to use that space otherwise. In fact, to not do so could be a waste of space. Surely your dad also taught you not to waste resources. As for sister dear, does she live nearby to you? Maybe she's afraid dad will hit her up. Or, does she live far away, and was figuring on using your guest room for some free lodging of her own? Not the asshole. A home should be set up for the best interests of the people who live there. You and your husband both regularly work from home. Sure, you could make do without the office, but it would be awkward and inconvenient for you both. It's quite absurd for someone who isn't paying any part of the rent or living there to expect you to suffer routine inconvenience in your own home year-round to better be convenient for them a few days a year. Info. My father called to ask whether he could stay at my apartment again this year. I said sure, but we don't have the guest room anymore, so he'd have to sleep in the office. I mean, is there a futon in the office? Pull-out couch? Because if not, I wouldn't even offer and just go straight to, no, get a hotel. Not the asshole. WFH wasn't a thing when your father was in the workforce. Nowadays a home office is a must, and it sounds like you and your husband both use it. While it is great to have a dedicated guest room, it's also crazy to have a room in your house that is almost never used, just in case someone comes to visit you. If the space permits, I consider getting a nice, comfortable pull-out sleeper sofa for your office, but a plan to have guests stay at a nearby hotel is perfectly fine. It's never inconsiderate to prioritize your household's needs when making choices. Having a guest bedroom only benefits others, not your husband, your baby, or you. Not the asshole, obviously. Honestly, I sometimes think it's so wasteful to keep a full room just on the premise that someone might come over to stay. I'm all for hybrid rooms. Office with a built-in Murphy bed on the wall. Project room with a pull-out couch. Exercise home gym with an air mattress. Like, why take your limited space and have it dedicated solely to something that might not be used for months on end? Not the asshole by any means. Am I the asshole for not telling mom and stepdad I was saving money? I, 17 female, will be 18 in a few days. My dad died when I was 7 and my mom married my stepdad a year later. He was never mean to me. He just never bothered about me until my mom had my half-sister, 10. My mom decided to stay at home with my sister. Would do everything for her. Buy her things and take her places. I didn't even get pocket money anymore. At first it hurt so much, especially when the three of them went out and they left me with neighbors or friends, but eventually I stopped caring. When I was 15 I got a part-time job that got me out of the house and I hardly saw any of them. I started buying things I needed, including hygiene products, because those were limited. I also saved most of my money. I have been saving most of my money for 3 years. My sister came into my room on Thursday while I wasn't home. She said she was looking for a charger. She found the money I had been saving and took it to show it to my mom and her dad. When I got home they blew up at me. They wanted to know where I had gotten so much money and if I was selling drugs. When I tried to explain, they wouldn't listen to me. My stepdad said that's why he wants me out when I'm 18, because I'm a degenerate who's going to influence my sister. They wouldn't give me the money back because they aren't sure where I got it and if it's legal. I left to go stay with a friend. I didn't even know my stepdad wanted me to leave when I turned 18. I don't blame my sister for any of this. She's young and doesn't know any better. She's not mean to me, she just doesn't interact with me much. I'm like a roommate she sees every now and then. Not the asshole. Go to the police station and file charges for theft. If you have pay stubs from your job, take those with you. Yes, that will probably blow up your relationship with your parents, but they lit the fuse by stealing from you. Your mom should be protecting you from your stepdad's bullying, not enabling it. Call the police and file a report for theft immediately. You are a victim, and they stole your money. Explain to the police about working, saving, and what happened. They will help you. If you can stay with your friends, awesome. Maybe a trusted parent of your friend could help you open a bank account? You're incredibly mature and capable, you have done nothing wrong. Please find a trusted adult to confide in. Maybe a school counselor. I hope you can understand how amazing you are, in spite of their venom and abuse. Sending you a virtual hug. I'm so sorry for your suffering. 12 years old is old enough to know not to go in your sibling's shit and then take it to your parents without even hearing an explanation from sibling first. What they did is literally illegal, by the way, and if you have proof of you collecting and cashing those checks, you might be able to get police involved and get your money back without having to press charges. Not the asshole. If you have your pay stubs, I call the police to report the theft. Not the asshole. Tell them to give you your money back or you're calling the police. Also, it's illegal for parents to kick kids out without proper notice. Or better yet, have your manager call them. The ages don't line up. They are 17 with a 12-year-old sister, so that means sister was born when they were 5. But they said their dad died when they were 8 and then at 9 mom remarried. So sister was born at least 4 years before mom married stepfather. If you are going to do fake stories, please try to get the math right. Am I the asshole for refusing to buy new things for our house? My husband and I share all essential house expenses equally, and this work for us, e.g. groceries, electricity, etc. As the wife, I see myself as the homemaker, and normally buys anything additional out of my own pocket, such as new crockery sets, fans, a rug, TV cupboard, etc. Things to make the house more homier. My husband is unfortunately a bit careless, and there are a couple of things that he breaks and normally I replace it. I bought for Christmas for my mom a nice kettle. It's in a box under the tree. Last week he broke our, under a year-old, kettle and just kept quiet about it until I had to use it. His reply, to all of them, are always, I don't know. I now refuse to buy a new kettle and refuse him to use the gift. I insist he have to buy the kettle himself, as I am of mind that he has this mentality of because he didn't buy it, he doesn't look after it. Am I the asshole for thinking like this? I believe we will be without a kettle for quite some time, as he is a bit close-fisted with his money. Ps. I still love him dearly. Smile. I don't know how people end up partnered to such dumbasses and then make posts like this saying, what do I do about my dumbass partner? Nothing. You don't do anything. They're a dumbass. Buy a new kettle or deal with the dumbassery. Not the asshole. You need to get a joint bank account for household expenses. You should not be expected to finance that stuff by yourself. Not the asshole. Just because you are the wife and the homemaker does not mean you should always be the one purchasing things for your house. Husband needs to pony up and buy a new kettle. Have a joint account for expenses. That way he pays for household stuff too, instead of using and breaking things like a 6-year-old. Not the asshole. Absolutely he should replace the kettle. Says something about character that not only is he not willing, but that he hid it from you. He is not a child. Why did you marry such a disrespectful person? He doesn't respect your property. Not the asshole.